The House of Representatives opening up for debate on the nearly $2 trillion stimulus package, otherwise known as the Reconciliation Bill. Also, one of the provisions within the stimulus package allowing the IRS to double their audit rate, which typically focuses on low-income and middle-income individuals and families. Also, the CBO score on the Reconciliation Bill. All of that plus more in this video. Let's get into this right away. But really fast before we do, thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video, as I'm here for you each and every day with all of the latest updates, as things are changing very rapidly right now, and I want to make sure that you stay tuned with everything going on so we can get you all of the money and benefits you're possibly eligible to receive during this time. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Subscribe down below and let's get into this right away. All right, so the House of Representatives opening up for debate on the massive, nearly $2 trillion reconciliation bill that we've been working on literally for 5 or 6 months from now. So, as mentioned yesterday, Steny Hoyer, which is one of the leaders in the Democratic Party, actually mentioned that they'd be opening up for debate yesterday on the reconciliation bill. However, as always, there was a minor delay on the debate, and he transferred it into today. So, debate opening it up on this reconciliation bill, which is actually going to set things up for a final vote on the bill tomorrow. So, this is actually really good. All things are coming in together. They actually wanted to have the final votes today on the reconciliation bill, but once again, things have been delayed a little bit. Now it's looking like things will be set up for a final vote on this reconciliation bill in the House of Representatives tomorrow. So this is going to be great. Once it passes through the House, then it will move on to the Senate, where then yet again it is going to open up for more debate and the vote-a-rama process, which is an unlimited voting process where basically any senator can bring up amendments to the bill, and that is usually a very long, drawn-out process. So, of course, first off, before we can do that, we need to clear the House here, which should be happening either tomorrow or possibly even Saturday, if yet again there are more delays on this package. But either way, they are making progress on this thing. It is very slow, but for sure they are making actual progress on this. So, of course, I'll continue watching that closely. However, I do want to discuss one of the provisions within the stimulus package, which will allow the IRS a bunch more funding, literally billions of dollars more in funding, which will actually increase their audit rate, which unfortunately, a lot of times these audits are actually focused on low-income and middle-income Americans and families. So according to this provision, they're actually anticipating that the audit rate would actually double by the IRS. Scary stuff, right? So, especially for those people who typically are focused on when it comes to audits. Either way, we'll continue watching that, as that is one of the provisions in the stimulus package as of right now, but that may actually be dropped as a result of it going into the Senate, and there are some moderates in the Senate who are saying, oh no, we're not going to be doing this. This is not allowed. We are not okay with that. So that may be taken out of there. So, one other thing that we need to mention and that we need to keep an eye on too is when this goes over to the Senate. Remember, just because it passes through the House does not mean it's a done deal. When it goes into the Senate during the vote-a-rama process, or when it's open up for debate or anything like that, they can add in any additional amendments, or they can take out any additional provisions in the package. Therefore, it's likely that it's going to be a different bill that passes through the Senate versus what is actually passed through the House. Therefore, they would need to send it back to the House and get another pass before it actually moves on to the president's desk for the final approval and signature, turning it into law. So we do have a few steps ahead of us when it comes to this massive, nearly $2 trillion reconciliation bill. But either way, we'll continue watching that. All right, when it comes to the CBO score, remember, we've been waiting for this score for about, 2 weeks now. We've been waiting for this score from the CBO, Congressional Budget Office. Now, this is something that was requested by moderate Democrats to get an official tally on the actual price tag of this bill. Well, according to some reports out there, they're actually anticipating this bill could cost nearly $5 trillion. Well, one of the things that they've been mentioning throughout the process, as in Democrats, the leaders, the president, people have been mentioning about this package, is that it's going to generate about $400 billion of extra tax revenues with IRS enforcement. However, according to other reports out there and what the CBO is saying, they're actually anticipating it's only going to generate $120 billion versus the $400 billion that they were actually anticipating. That's a discrepancy of $280 billion as a shortfall. Therefore, we could be coming in way less than actually what they need to actually cover the full cost of this package. Because remember, they keep telling us that this entire package is completely 100% paid for by the wealthy individuals, wealthy families, and large corporations by taxing more. So kind of interesting, but either way, as we get those final tallies on this, 10 actually provisions. So the CBO actually released 10 actual scoring and tallies as far as 10 of the provisions within the package on Wednesday evening. However, we're still waiting for just a couple more at this point, but we're still setting up for that final vote tomorrow in the House of Representatives on this stimulus package. Now, typically, a lot of times, another thing too is, in my previous videos earlier today, I've been mentioning a little bit about stimulus checks, the urgency of a fourth stimulus check, especially a highly focused fourth stimulus check in the amount of either $1,400 or $2,000, which actually does have support by over 80 members of Congress. Now, here's the thing that's interesting about that. A lot of times, stimulus checks are actually added into the package when it goes over to the Senate. A lot of times, they're not added in the House of Representatives, but rather they are added in when it goes over to the Senate, because that is typically where the critical number of votes are actually needed to actually get these packages passed through. As I mentioned in a number of my videos, a lot of times the House of Representatives is pretty much just a rubber stamp, right? They pass it through the House, it gets, approval, no problem at all, and they just kind of rubber stamp it and send it on to the Senate. However, the Senate is typically where they pick up the amendments for stimulus checks. And again, we have no clue what is coming in the Senate at all. However, it is kind of interesting with my last video that I was out with and that anti-poverty reports that are coming out right now, and people really hammering down on Congress saying, hey, we need a fourth stimulus check right now, especially focused on low income and the fixed income beneficiaries of Social Security, retirement, disability, SSDI, survivors, SSI, VA, RRB. And it's kind of interesting how, as a result of these poverty reports that have been released recently, we're starting to see all these other people coming out saying, hey, obviously the information is right here. The proof is in all of these reports. 37 million people living in poverty in America. This is not okay. They need to be lifted up. All this massive inflation is eating away at the buying power of their fixed income. It's just not happening anymore. So I mentioned all that in my last video. Feel free to go back and check that out. We don't need to go over that all again in this video, but it's kind of interesting how all of a sudden, all of these people and advocacy groups are coming out once again, hammering down on Congress. So basically at this point, I'm doing everything I possibly can to reach out to people like Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, Pramila Jayapal, Nancy Pelosi, the president, and doing whatever we possibly can to really advocate and push for that fourth stimulus check, especially going into December. And just like last year, remember, the last package that came through in December of last year originally hit the table with no stimulus check in it. However, literally days before the package was actually passed and signed into law, we had Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley, two senators, stand up and say, we must have a stimulus check, otherwise we're withholding our vote. And they ultimately got it. So I know that I mentioned that a few times in some of my videos, but we need to remember that, because just because it goes to the Senate and there's no stimulus check in the package does not mean that it's a done deal and that it's over with. No, that does not mean it at all. In fact, it is not a done deal and it is not game over until the president actually signs it, and then it's finally done, right? So again, we have to watch all of this stuff very closely, and we need to continue doing everything we possibly can to reach out to these lawmakers and remind them that it is very, very important. So if you haven't done so yet, you may want to reach out to some of your representatives, some of your senators, your lawmakers, anybody in Congress who has influence right now. Remind them through a phone call, through voicemails, through email. Feel free to send them a letter like I do in the mail, whatever it takes during this time. It is so incredibly important during this time that we have right now, over the next few weeks before they actually pick up this thing in the Senate and actually start working on it. We've got to get our voices heard on it for a stimulus check, right? All right, anyway. So I had no plans on talking about that in that amount of depth, but you know what? I got off on a little rant there, and I just decided let's just go with it. All right, let's quickly talk about the initial jobless claims. Now, this is the number of people who file for unemployment in the previous week. It came in at a new low since early 2020. 268,000 people last week applied for unemployment benefits, which is actually the lowest low that we've had since March of 2020. So interesting stuff. It's been, about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half since the last time we saw a number this low. But it actually is a good thing, showing that more people are going back to the workforce and or they're not applying for unemployment benefits, as in maybe not losing jobs right now. But again, anything could turn as we get into the colder seasons right now. And as I mentioned in one of my previous videos just the other day, COVID is actually surging across Europe right now. In fact, they are seeing record cases. In fact, I haven't mentioned this yet, but maybe you've come across this and maybe you've seen this in other videos or maybe on TV, something like that. But Austria is actually going into a lockdown for non-vaccinated individuals. So you can see kind of what's going on over there. There are literally millions of new cases on a weekly basis in Europe. And as I've said in my last video, or not my last video, but a previous video just a couple days ago, and many people have also said, watch Europe, because typically what happens in Europe makes its way to the United States at some point. Again, I'm not wishing any of that stuff to happen, but I'm just saying we've got to watch this stuff very closely, because once again, we're getting into the winter where people spend more time inside. And of course, the holidays, we all want to gather with our friends and family. We want to see people. And again, you just never know what's going to happen. So all we really hope for right now is that everybody stays safe during this time. But yeah, either way, we'll have to watch all this stuff very closely. But either way, when it comes down to the stimulus package, the House is picking it up and they're going to be passing this thing probably tomorrow. The final votes on this thing will be coming, unless we see another little delay. Then, of course, it may be pushed into Saturday. But it's all coming down to literally pretty much 48 hours from right now. It'll all be done and over with in the House of Representatives, and then it moves on to the Senate. Nice. Whoa, this kind of came fast, didn't it? Either way, I'll be here for you no matter what, bringing you all the latest updates. Make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss any videos going forward, and I'll continue to keep you posted with anything else coming out, as I am your one and only daily advocate. I'm here for you every single day with all of the latest updates, and I truly want to do whatever I can to make sure that you're getting all of the money and benefits you're possibly eligible to receive as a result of these stimulus packages. Enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe down below. Go back and check out some of the other 2,000 videos right here on the channel.